pretty much every kind of analysis we want to do. So the first thing I always do is add my headers. The reason for this is because it allows me to calculate the size of my table. What I don't want to do is just turn a sheet into a table because it creates an unnecessarily large file. And because that file is so large and because I use everything within our Office 365 environment, it can get too big to actually even be workable and open in Office 365, and that's what I want to avoid. So the second thing here I want to look at is to estimate the number of rows. By estimating the number of rows, it allows me, of course, to limit that as well. Now I can do that pretty easy because you have 7 periods, take one away because of planning, so that leaves you with 6, calculate graduate's class size, which is roughly around 30 or so. So we're talking 180 plus 1, so 181 because row 1 here, of course, is being used. So we'll go to here, so our range A to G, and then we'll go down. Remember, I want to go to 181. So that's the range I want to create the table in. And I'm going to come over here to format as a table. And you've got 3 light, medium, and dark that you can choose from. I do not like dark at all. I can't stand dark. I like the medium. The light doesn't create enough of the contrast that I want. So the medium does, and I like to use, typically I go with blues and greens. So I'm going to go with this green one here. Then I'm going to check my table has headers. Then I'm going to hit OK. And so that creates my table. Now you'll notice, of course, when you look at the table, you'll see automatically it creates the shading that I want to create that contrast. And it's just within the limits of what my estimated sizes are. Now it's really, really easy to add columns because all I have to do is when I start typing here, it automatically adds a column at the bottom. It automatically adds the rows. One of the things I'm going to show you here is where I've got this pre-test and post-test 1. I can highlight these two and auto fill over until I get to 4, which is M. And then you'll notice it automatically creates those columns for me. Now, one of the things you see here is where it's covered up. If you will highlight across the columns like this, and then move the cursor in between 2, like L and M here, so you get that symbol, if you'll double click, it'll automatically resize so that you see the width. Now, what it'll do, like for example, with a long last name, is it'll automatically resize to the largest point. So as you add information in, if you need to, you can just double click and that'll open that up and make it the size it's supposed to be. Now the other thing I want to do with my tables is get in the habit of renaming them and renaming sheets. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to call this sheet. You'll see all the different options I have here. We're going to do a different video on these. I'm going to choose rename. I'm just going to call this period 1. And then my table, I'm going to just call this, I'll do period 1. And so period 1 and then period 1 down here with a space. And so my table's been named, my sheet's been named. This becomes really important as we get into more advanced things that we're doing because it eliminates seeing sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3 and constantly. So we always want to name everything we're working in. It makes things a little bit easier when we start to develop the different formulas. So you'll see what I've got. Now what you'll notice it's done is it's automatically created my filters for everything, which is really, really good. And I always use this custom sort. I'll cancel this and show it to you. So whenever I build a table, the first 2 columns for me are what I'm going to sort by. So usually this is almost always last name and first name. And so what I want to do is put them first so that when I sort, it's in alphabetical order. One of the things you have to remember, of course, is that when you're sorting, just because you put something in its last name doesn't mean that it's alphabetical order. It needs to be last name and first name. So to do that, we go over here to this Home tab, and we go to Sort and Filter. And we choose Custom Sort. And now you'll notice you can add levels. And so what we do is we'd say first name and last name. And then that makes sure that everything is in true alphabetical order. And you'll see right here on the filters these up arrows that show you that it's been sorted this way. Now, in the course of as we add data, we may have to adjust that, and that's perfectly fine because you can always resort. What you don't want to do is constantly be sorting by other columns. You always want to filter, and that's what these filters are for. So when we add data in here, we'll work through all of those filters and see how to do the different things within them. Now, the last thing I want to show you on this table is you'll notice as you go through, there's the lines vertically, they don't really stand out because of how it's set up horizontally. So I want to add some differences in here, so target some vertical borders. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click 2, and I'm going to come over here to M. Then I'm going to go down to 181. I'm going to make sure I'm on the Home tab. And I'm going to open up under here under Alignment. I'm going to open up the settings for this alignment. And I'm going to choose Border. I'm going to click the 3 here. Now what that does is it's going to create vertical borders here. So this makes everything for me a lot easier to see as I go across. All of my column data then is separated by the lines. Then all of my row data is separated by color. So this allows me to add stuff in it, and visually speaking, it's a lot easier to find stuff and to read. Now, you'll look here at tables as you scroll down. One of the nice things is that it automatically, you'll see here, it automatically basically puts those at the top so you can read everything. But once you start to get into a lot of stuff and you come across, you'll notice that your names disappear. So we want to fix that. So we're going to click, and we'll go click on C. So that way first and last name always appear. So we're on C2, and we're going to click View. Go over here where it says Freeze Panes. We have some options. We're just going to choose Freeze Panes. We're going to choose this because this is going to do row and column. So when I click Freeze Panes, now when I scroll across and down, those are always there. This is going to help me keep up with everything. So this is kind of the first step to any sort of dealing with data in Excel, is to create these tables, and this will make things a lot easier for you to work with.